Set 3, 12 problems. Here are some hints. Remember our 4 rules. Get something on paper. Keep nothing in your head. Be neat. Think of a simple example if you're stuck or unsure. The degree measure of the acute angle formed by the hands of a 12-hour clock that reads exactly 1 o'clock. Draw a clock. Label the hours. Okay, what's the degree measure of each hour? How many degrees are in a circle? The answer comes pretty quick. What's the probability that a number selected at random from this set is divisible by both 2 and 3? Well, there's 8 numbers, so that's the denominator. How many are divisible by 2 and 3? 2? No. 3? No. 7? No. 12? Well, 12 divided by 2 is 6. 12 divided by 3 is 4, so that's 1. We can just enumerate these. Very simple. A circle has circumference 16 pi feet. What's the radius? I write 2 things down usually with a problem like this. C equals 16 pi, I know that. C equals 2 pi r, I also know that. Therefore, 16 pi equals 2 pi r. Solve for r. A rectangle with perimeter 30 centimeters is, already I'm drawing a rectangle. I don't keep anything in my head, and I get this on paper. I draw a rectangle, twice as long as it is wide. Let's label something. What's the width? Let's call it W. What's the length? That's twice as long as it is wide. So it's 2W. I don't stop there. I label all 4 sides. So I know that the perimeter is something. I also know the perimeter is 30. I can solve for W. Because it's not asking for the perimeter, it's asking for the area. Most important part, draw the rectangle. Find the midpoint of these 2 points. Well, if you graph it with precision, the answer pops out. Suppose you didn't, and you weren't sure if the answer is, do I add these and divide by 2, subtract them and divide by 2, just subtract them? For midpoint, a simple example I use is take just the numbers 2 and 10. What's the midpoint? 6. How did I get it? I add the numbers together and divide by 2. And I apply that rule then to these points. A, B, C, and D are on a line. B is between A and C. Plot it. A, then C, then B. Or B, I'm sorry, A, then B, then C. C, what's between B and D? Plot it. The distance from A to B is 6. Write it. Then keep going. The tricky part here is answering the question. A hint. Starting at point 0, let's call that 0. We're starting at point A, let's call that point 0. Which of the following must be true for N, A, B, and C? Well, this is tricky to me because there's greater than and less than signs pointing different directions. N is less than A. Write it. I change all these things around, by the way, so that they're all pointing in the same direction. N is less than A. A is then less than C. And C is less than B. So I have this written down. I can then answer these. Is A less than N? No, because I'm looking right at my line. N is not less than, or A is not less than N. How about, is B less than N? No, you see that it's not. And you can work through these. 20% or 70% A's, 20% B's, 10% C's. I make a little table. A's, points. So I have 70% at 4, 20% at 3, 10% at 2. I can determine then the GPA. I subtract these. 1.080808. What's 1.8 minus 1.080808? Oh, these are so simple. What's the relationship between time and velocity? Well, you can just plug these in if you weren't sure. At time t equals 0, the velocity should be 120. So that eliminates F. Because if I plug in t equals 0, I get v equals 0. What about h? Same thing, it's not correct. You can play with it a bit and see how it's either G, J, or K. A cleaner is manufactured using only the 3 secret ingredients, A, B, and C. They're mixed in the ratio, 2 to 3 to 5. So if something was 20, the other is 30, the other is 50. If one is 2, the other is 3, the other is 5. Problem is we don't know how much of each there are. Let's call it X. So therefore there's 2x of A, 3x of B, 5x of C. We also know in total there's 42. Write all this out neatly. Solve for B. This is probably the trickiest one of all, and it's not. 16 times 2 to the m equals 4 to the n minus 8. Let's rewrite that. We also know n equals 8. Write it in there. 16 times 2 to the m equals 4 to the 8 minus 8, or 4 to the 0. Anything to the 0 power is 1. Therefore, 16 times 2 to the m equals 1. Solve for m. How would you do that? We'll divide by 16 first. So you got 2 to the m equals 1 over 16. Give it a try.